This weekend is the Ravnica Remastered pre-release, and this video is MTG Moxman's guide to your pre-release. To help you come out on top, I will share with you all the tricks and cards that I'm looking for when I go to my local pre-release. So sit back and relax, take in some information, and hopefully you'll come out on top at your pre-release. As soon as you've gotten your pre-release kit and you crack it open, you're going to see all these amazing cards, and then you have to decide what land you're going to build with. Are you going to do a single color deck? I would recommend 16 to 17 land. Maybe you're going to use a 2-color deck. Maybe 17 to 18 land is what I'd recommend for that. Or a 3-color deck, which I do not recommend playing, but some players really like to go all out. If you're going to play that way, 18 to 21 land. Now again, I really would not go with the 3-color, especially in a remastered product like this with all the color combinations and cards made available. I will explain later. Please stick to 1 or 2 colors, but most likely in your pre-release you will be facing off at least against 2-color decks. A lot of players are going to try some crazy stuff at this pre-release just because of the cards available and the power levels, which we'll discuss later. So please remember to focus on a 1-color or 2-color deck. Again, I don't recommend a 3-color, but if you want to go there, I would add extra land to that mana base. Now, as we go through, let's remember that we do have guild gates inside this set and the chance for shock lands. Just because you get excited about opening a shock land doesn't mean you're going to be able to utilize it inside your deck construction at your pre-release. Remember, you're trying to win, which means just because you have some cool cards inside that you've opened doesn't mean they're going to be used inside your actual deck that you're competing with. Always keep that stuff in mind, guys. We get pretty excited at our pre-releases. Ravnica is also going to offer us things like the Signets and Chromatic Lantern. It doesn't mean you're going to get them, but chances are in one of your pack you may get one of these things and be tempted to utilize it. I would not be putting these in. They're going to tie up your 40-card deck with needless space in the hopes of some extra land composition control that I don't think is necessary inside of your pre-release if you want to win, so I'd be skipping this and putting them aside. Now, unlike a standard set, I have to say when you're looking at Ravnica Remastered, we have to take a different approach to how we're going to build our decks. Although we'd like to have a single color deck, that would mean you'd have to get a whole bunch of a particular color inside your 6 packs, which means generally speaking you're going to have a whole bunch of people using a 2-color deck. Now in the case of removal, which is the first thing I would look for in a pre-release kit, I'm looking for as many removal cards as I can find and seeing which ones I can pair off or have synergy. You are going to find the most likely culprits in this case going to be white because of the ability to detain opponents and slow them down, as well as the cards like Blind Obedience that say your stuff comes into play tapped. These are very powerful cards in their own right, and when you add them into a pre-release, they can be downright just devastating for players to have to deal with. Anything that has detain or says your creature can't block or anything, it's just crazy to think about, but that's how things can play out. And when you add in the synergy of another color, when you find a way to add that second color in there, like blue in this case, you are going to find you have a lot more options. Cards like downsize or following through with things like the transmutation, turning huge creatures into 1/1s, or even unsummoning them with cards like repeal, give you a lot of options. Not to mention you can sometimes be totally lost, and although it costs a lot, you can turn a big spell right where you need it to be, back on top of their library. Guys, no deck is going to be perfect. You're trying to make your deck as palatable as possible, as much fun as you can muster with the cards you open inside your packs. Never forget, the key here is to have fun and try to win, of course, using your skills and abilities against an opponent, but at the same time, I'm trying to find the synergy in the cards, and I always like removal because it does so well in a pre-release, so keep that in mind, looking for cards that can eliminate other cards. Now our next section, we're going to cover planeswalkers, because normally in a regular standard set, I would not really be bothered by any planeswalkers they put in the game because they give us so many solutions to planeswalkers. But when you're looking at a remastered product, in particular Ravnica Remastered, we don't seem to have a lot of ready solutions that we can just go and axe out a planeswalker with a 1 or 2 casting cost instant card. Yeah, we're going to have Dreadbore in this set, and it's a multicolored card if you're lucky enough to get one, But for the most part, we do have to pay attention to what could be inside a pre-release kit. And in this case, the planeswalkers, things like Ral Zarek could give you up to multiple turn-taking abilities. Nicobolas, I mean, there are some big cards in here, guys. Don't forget Liliana, the Dreadhorde General, or Gideon Blackblade. I mean, guys, even Teferi the Time Reveler is in this set. I'm not saying everybody's going to get one. I'm not saying it's going to be a real commonplace thing to see one of these planeswalkers appearing inside your pre-release kit. But with this many choices and the amount of mythics we have in this set, it seems likely that a few opponents or even yourself may get lucky enough to have one of these cards. If you get one, of course, it doesn't mean you'll be able to use it if the rest of your cards don't synergize with it properly. But if you can splash it in, I might be tempted to put this in my deck depending on the planeswalker I get, just because of the fact that there aren't a lot of solutions, and some of the guys like Liliana or Nicobolas, Ral Zarek, Teferi, they can be basically game-ending cards in a pre-release. Like bombs like we used to know, these are even scarier because they have multiple effects on the game and there's not many solutions you're going to have to solve them. So players have to be prepared for that, and most people won't be. They're not going to be prepared. They're going to be thinking of this as a regular pre-release, and it's not. As a remastered product, we even got cards like Stitch in Time, which you can flip a coin and take an extra turn. There is some crazy stuff that's going to happen, and being of the mindset you're going to have fun and try some crazy stuff and maybe just get a very aggressive pre-release or a very organized one with the right cards to handle the right situation, it's not going to work that way for everyone. And some players are going to be lucky enough to have planeswalkers in their decks. So just, it's something to keep in mind and enjoy the fact that these cards are actually going to have an impact in your pre-release. Now let's move on and talk about creatures. Now, depending on what color you're looking for, you can look at red and you might get lucky and get a Krenko Mob Boss, but are you going to get Krenko's Command? Are you going to get the Legion War Boss? Guys, in a pre-release, you're not that lucky usually to get an entire array of cards that will fit perfectly together. Better to look at the casting costs of the creatures within the colors you're using. Look for some that are low casting cost, meaning 1 or 2 mana, some cards that are going to be 2 or 3 mana, and some that are 4 or higher, which are usually going to be your bomb cards, the ones you expect to be able to wipe the board clean after draining out your opponent's hands and dealing with your earlier cards. Now that we've taken care of creatures, it's time to talk about your commons and uncommons. They are going to be the brick and mortar that holds your deck together. When you look at the cards they're offering you in Ravnica Remastered, a lot of the uncommons are going to be multicolored cards, which means they may or may not fit within the confines of the deck you're trying to build, which means you'll have to really take a look at what you've got available. But when we're looking at Ravnica Remastered as a whole and understanding a lot of players are going to be 2-color or even 3-color decks just because they think they can get away with all these amazing cards, there is a lot of great uncommons that you shouldn't ignore. You should be taking a look and seeing how these cards can fit within what you're trying to accomplish. Are you being an overly aggressive deck? Are you trying to outdraw your opponent to get to the cards you need to overwhelm the opponent? Are you trying to counter what they're trying to do, slow them down, and slowly get ahead like in a chess match, piece by piece, depending on the way you like to play it? And in my case, I like to have the game drawn out as long as possible. I like to do removal, I like to control the board state, and make sure I want things to happen a certain way as much as is possible whenever you're at a pre-release, which means you don't panic, you take your time. You make sure you block the appropriate creatures and make as little mistakes as possible. With the cards that you have the availability to use inside Ravnica Remastered, even the lowliest common or uncommon could be the winning card that lets you draw a card, lets you make an opponent, discard a card, mills some opponent's cards into their graveyard, or possibly does some other crazy direct damage that's going to make or break what you're trying to do in the game. Before we wrap up today's pre-release guide on Ravnica Remastered, I'd like to remind every player who's going to their local pre-release to have fun, enjoy yourselves, challenge yourself in building some great funky, whatever deck you want to build it. However you want to play it. Have a good time, and I hope when you're there you meet some new friends and talk with some old friends. I hope you have the time of your life, and remember that it's just a game. Don't get mad, don't get upset, have fun. And I hope you found some of the information today useful, and maybe you'll find a few things you can use when you're at your pre-release and having the blast that I hope it is for every player out there. I want to thank everyone again for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and of course, if you're new to the channel, I hope you take the time to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my daily uploaded content. Have a great time, everyone. It's an amazing game, and I can't wait to see you guys next time for another video. Have fun this weekend at Ravnica Remastered's pre-release. And of course, a big shout out and thank you to every single one of the amazing patrons and YouTube membership members I have on the channel. Because of their generous donations to the channel, daily uploaded content is made possible. Thanks again, everyone. Welcome back to the Ramble Jamble. You've decided to go past the pre-release, past the credits, into what I like to call the Ramble Jamble. You're here, you're at the end. You made it. It's like the post-credit scenes. Alright, so here we are. I gotta be honest, guys. This pre-release is going to be different from most of the pre-releases I've been at, where there's just so many funky cards that can do crazy stuff. Depending on what you get in your pre-release kit, it is going to be quite an experience to play with these cards. Planeswalkers actually matter, as far as I'm concerned, for this particular set. I think we're going to have some very unique creatures that are big banging things, but there's also a lot of weak creatures, comparatively speaking, to most of the other things we've seen out there. So this just adds like a whole smorgasbord of all kinds of crazy stuff that could go down. So I'm really looking forward to this pre-release. I'm scheduled for 3, so I hope I do really well. I'm a little concerned about what I may get in my pre-release kit, that if I can make a deck that works or not. I'm hoping I don't have to go more than 2 colors, but you never know. That's the best part. Have a good time, try your best, and you never know. Either way, what are we talking about here? It's magic. It's always a good time. Even when it's horrible, it's still a good time. Guys, have an awesome one. I hope you guys are going to your pre-release, because I think it's going to be the most affordable way to enjoy this game right now. So we'll see how it all plays out. Thanks again. Have a great day. I hope you guys leave some comments in the comments section. Something to the effect of, I don't know, whatever you feel like, because it's that kind of day. Have a great one, guys. Army of Darkness.